All right, Eddie Hearn recently gave an interview with IFL, and I'm reading quotes here off Seconds Out website. Now, this is with regard to Joshua versus Dubois. He hasn't necessarily ruled out it being next for Anthony Joshua, but it certainly won't be February 22nd. In fact, the only two names he really mentioned for Anthony Joshua, Daniel Dubois and Tyson Fury, win or lose the Usyk rematch. Now, I'm going to quote Eddie Hearn here. He said, it says here, and I quote, well, I'll get the Eddie Hearn's quote in a second, but it says here on the Seconds Out website, it was thought that Joshua would take an immediate rematch, but his team has since revealed he won't be ready for the Dubois preferred date of February 22nd. Speaking to IFL TV, Hearn now said he could well still take the fight next. I'll interject as well, just not in February. Now, it is interesting because Anthony Joshua, in the immediate wake of the Daniel Dubois fight, I mean, I think it was only days after, was mentioning that, oh, he'd be ready to go and this, that, and the other. Now, I'm going to quote Eddie Hearn here. He says, yeah, I think AJ might fight Dubois next. Physically, he's not ready to get back into camp. He had a few niggles coming out of the fight. He would have gone into a February 22nd, not 100%. He would have now. Said he would have, to be honest, and he wanted to do it. It was very difficult, but when I got on a call and you've got Anthony Joshua pleading to let him fight on February 22nd, and you've got his doctor and physio saying he can't physically start camp in 3 or 4 weeks and be 100%, yeah, but I can't beat him. I don't want those, I don't want to, how does that say? I don't want to dose the opportunity to rematch him. I'm assuming whoever typed this, he actually says dose the opportunity. I mean, I don't want to lose the opportunity to rematch him. It's like, if we get this wrong, you're done. Well, I agree with him. You could argue that he's already done. Hearn said the team would take the time to get Joshua completely fit mentally and physically, and reiterated he will fight next, who he will fight next. There are only really those two fights that are the focus. The rematch with Dubois or the Fury fight, win or lose, against Alexander Usyk. Either of those fights will be huge for his boxing, and a challenge for Joshua that Fury thinks is a step too far. In the meantime, Daniel Dubois is set to defend his title in February with a yet named opponent. Whoever wrote this on Seconds Out, this is just a little nitpick. I mean, I don't want those the opportunity to rematch him. I'm assuming you mean lose. I mean, that's pretty bad going for Seconds Out to have mistakes like that, but I know. So he's basically saying that Joshua, yes, he could still fight him next, but there's things there that I don't really get that Eddie Hearn is saying. So, and I did see some other articles where they were quoting him as saying he won't be back till the summer. Now, I'm a bit lost here. So he's got a few niggles, which is normal for boxers. I mean, you hear most fighters go through a camp with niggles. Some of them, they're very apparent in the ring. That guy is injured, like Frank Sanchez. It's very apparent. Others, it isn't. You know, and of course, fighters are fighters. They're not going to want to give any advantage. That's why with David Haye, when he, was ridiculed over the broken toe against Klitschko, yeah, you're not going to admit to anything really. And if you're always going to say, even if you have the worst camp possible, even if your arm's hanging off, you're just going to turn around and say, best camp ever, electric, etc., 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 because you're not going to want to give your opponent any advantage. So I get that, fighters, not just Joshua, I'm sure Dubois wasn't 100%. Of course they have injuries. They're bound to. I mean, it's very impactful, intense training. They're bound to go into the ring, physically fit and looking in very good shape. But, they're probably going to be hurt and even going into the ring. Not massively hurt, but you get what I mean. Now, he's talking about niggles, though. I mean, if you talk about 3 to 4 weeks, so in 3 to 4 weeks, that would be roughly December. Well, if the fight's happening in February, that's more than enough time. It's not even happening in early February, it's the end of February. John Fury, and I think it was Carl Froch last year, we're talking about Tyson Fury and how are they going to get through Christmas, because Fury, known to blow up in between fights, they were talking about always going to struggle at Christmas, this, that, and the other. And obviously this is when the fight was set to be in February. Fury pulled out roughly a week before the fight, but nevertheless, he was still going through camp, he was still doing everything. And this was after, I would say he left that Ngannou fight not 100%, obviously. I wouldn't say he had any noticeable injuries, a bit of facial damage, but he was pretty much good to go and straight back into camp after the Ngannou fight, which was the end of October. This is September time. So how bad are those niggles really? Eddie Hearn uses the word niggle. That to me just implies, oh, he's got a bit of a problem there or something like that. I mean, maybe that's what the niggle is, but like to act like that's going to keep you out of the ring for a couple of weeks. You won't be able to start camp till December. Listen, if it was February, you got to think of it like this. Say he wasn't cleared till the first week in December. Let's just hypothetically say that you can't start proper training camp till the first week in December. So let's say December the 7th, which I think is a Saturday. Let's say that's the date. That's still well over. That's roughly more than 8 weeks? 9-10 weeks from fight night? That's more than enough. I reckon what's happened here is that Team Hearn and Team Joshua have looked at this rematch and thought straight away, because sometimes they say things, because Eddie Hearn, do you remember when Eddie Hearn was saying in the immediate aftermath of the first Andy Ruiz fight, we're doing the rematch in the UK, we're doing it, I reckon they were just thinking ahead, straight back into the rematch, all guns blazing, and then it probably dawned on them, like, look, Dubois, chances are he's got our number. Chances are he has our number, and chances are if we rematch him again, we're going to lose, and we're going to lose even more convincingly. And you hear Eddie Hearn saying that, like if he rematches him, if he loses again, that's him done. His own promoters even kind of come to terms with that now. So I'm sure they're looking and thinking, right, Dubois pay us a lot of money, unlikely we'll win. I mean, you never know, heavyweight boxing at the end of the day, but unlikely we'll win. We'll make a lot of money, but we won't make as much as we probably did first time around. Dubois will definitely be the ace side. Now, if Fury beats Alexander Usyk, well, that fight is the biggest fight, one of the biggest fights, if not, no, it is the biggest fight in boxing even now still. So there you go. Or if he loses to Alexander Usyk, it's still a big fight. It's still a big money fight. It's still a fight that would probably make more money than the Dubois rematch. And it's a fight that, especially given the nature of how Fury loses, if he loses, they'll probably look at that and think, do you know what? If we can beat him, it means that we still have some life in the game. Maybe not in terms of physically, in terms of, I'd still think most of these new up-and-comers would give Anthony Joshua, like Bacoli or Dubois or people like that. I think they beat Joshua at this point. But it would mean they could maybe still try and have a bit of a victory lap, and just have a couple more paydays. I suspect that's the thinking. I suspect Eddie Hearn and Joshua have rushed in originally when they lost to Dubois, said, all right, we'll take the rematch, and then reflected and said, you know what? If we do have to rematch him, if Fury loses to Usyk and say retires, okay, we'll rematch Dubois. But if he beats Usyk or if he loses and we can get that fight done, it's a bigger fight. It's a more winnable fight, I think, even now at this point for Anthony Joshua. And let's just go right ahead and do it. Now, if Fury beats Usyk, personally, I think it is completely, and I mean this, unacceptable for him to defend his world title against Anthony Joshua straight away. I would consider that completely unacceptable, because a man's coming in off the back of a devastating loss, having previously had a world title fight, and he gets an immediate crack at Tyson Fury for another world title shot after. I consider that completely unacceptable. Completely unacceptable. If Fury loses, it's not for any title, go knock yourselves out. I'll watch it. I'll be very interested to watch it. But I reckon that's what Eddie Hearn is doing. They're waiting to see what happens in Fury Usyk. And interesting, they're not mentioning Alexander Usyk. I think Eddie Hearn knows that ship is well and truly sailed. So, yeah, that's what I think it is. Niggles would prevent Joshua from starting camp until December. Still plenty of time to go ahead with the Dubois rematch. End of February. It's not like, it's not like a doctor, because a referee, it's not like a doctor is saying you can't start until mid-Jan. I'd be saying, yeah, fair enough. Probably too little. Yeah, fair enough. But what, early December? Mid-December? Plenty of time. I don't understand that. So I think that's Eddie Hearn and Joshua was thinking, wait it out, see what happens in the Fury fight. If we have to fight Dubois, we will. But let's kick that can down the road as long as we can. Let me know your thoughts on this situation, what Eddie Hearn had to say there. I'll leave it here, people. Hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button. Hit that, honestly, hit that flipping like button. Do you know why? Because it helps the channel grow. We want to get this channel to 20k subs. So if you hit that flipping like button as hard as you can. And if you can hit it again, do it again. In fact, don't hit it again because you'll unlike the video. So just like it once. Boom. Pick up. I'll leave it there. Peace.